and this one is going to be on resilience. So if we can go ahead and just kind of introduce ourselves, maybe say a little bit about how many kids you have, where you heard, well, we know where you all heard of this, just something that you'd like to tell us about yourself. You want to start, Lisa?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you sort of tell us who to go first.
Oh, well, yeah.
4 children ranging in age from 12 to 20. 2 in college, 1 in high school, and 1 in junior high.
Okay.
3 boys, 1 girl.
Wow.
Yeah. My son, when he was born, I was so happy it was a boy because I thought that raising a girl would be extremely difficult. And it was nice, and not stepdaughters, more difficult. Do you find that with your girl? Was she a little more difficult? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
In a word.
Yeah. Isn't that?
And I have 3 sisters. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. And he was right in the middle of all of us.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And my husband has just 2 brothers, so he had no experience with sisters. So that made it interesting.
Well, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Jocelyn.
Yeah, for sure. You can use the chat. So if you just go to the bottom and then it says chat.
This is kind of crazy, this whole virtual thing.
Yeah.
It's like changed our lives.
Right.
Sometimes in good ways.
Nice.
Oh no.
Oh. We won't tell.
Oh God, I hope that's not what happened to mine.
Yeah.
So you have kids, and what are their ages?
Yeah. Awesome. And Jocelyn, you're also a teacher, right? Or
There she is. Hi, Jocelyn. We know each other.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh,
yeah.
good idea. Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. Very
good. You're perfect. You're perfect. We'll use the chat function later too. So it's all good. Yeah. I'm glad that you're joining us. Jessica, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I have 1 daughter. She's 7. She's in the 2nd grade. I'm also working right now, so if I randomly disappear,
okay.
I shouldn't have to, but I had a rough morning, so
Aww.
hopefully it won't go that way. But yeah, she's 7. She's in the 2nd grade. She's doing virtual learning while my husband and I are both working at home. So
wow,
it can be challenging sometimes.
Challenging, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, it was good to meet everybody. We'll wait just a minute for Jocelyn to.
Here she is. She's coming back. I'll do a very brief intro too, because I just sort of started talking. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
My name is Christina. Katie and I work together at Envision Partnerships. I'm the director of the community programs here, and so like I said, she and I are working together on this. And in terms of my kids, there's a reason that Katie is the one who's leading this. So I don't have any kids, but I've coached quite a bit. I have several animals, but apparently that's not, like parenting is really different from either of those things. So I won't even come close to saying like I can even relate, right? Like I get it. Anytime I'm around kids, I get to send them home eventually. Totally different experience. I praise parents enormously. But like I said, there's a reason Katie's here leading the charge on this. So Jocelyn, do you want to try your sound again?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Hi.
Sorry. Yeah, I spilled water on this, and when I was working remotely, I used to use my own computer to do video stuff. So it's my first video chat experience on my work computer, so sorry. But yeah, I have 2 boys, ages 9 and 12 in Lakota, and I was interested in this. I mean, obviously for them, but they seem to be doing fine. But I'm actually also professionally interested in this because I work in the guidance office. as the sort of school social worker at a local high school. So I just wanted to kind of check out more about resilience, and I do a lot of social emotional learning and training, and also maybe learn about Envision. So that's kind of
Cool.
a
Very nice.
That's fantastic.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to be, as much as I can be, Katie's tech backup. So Katie, let me know if you want me to switch over to your little presentation. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have a slide presentation. We'll talk through it there. You know, if you have any questions or just want a comment, go ahead and put it in the chat. There will be times that we'll stop and just have some discussion, but whoops. There we go. All right, so this is a virtual workshop for parents, and this series is called Stomp Out Stress. And I don't believe anyone was here for the first two. We'll have a quick little review of those, but they are also available on our YouTube channel. Just if you look up Envision Partnerships, they will be there. And that's where this will be as well in a few days. So this is session 3. You can do, it's becoming resilient in the face of COVID-19. It's always nice to be a little resilient, but this has really posed some pretty extreme issues. So go to the next slide. Okay, so resilience is just the ability to withstand, bounce back, and grow in the face of stressors and changing demands. It's not about just getting through. It's about actually learning some things to increase your ability to be resilient in the future. We can go ahead to the next slide. I just had to put this in because I thought it was kind of appropriate at the moment. And you can kind of almost pretend those are little coronavirus things in there. But alrighty, so many moving parts. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So what are some of the stressors and changing demands that you and your kids are facing? If you want to put those in the chat, or you can just say them out loud. What are some things that you're coming up against that are pretty new?
Getting used to the online class assignments and postings and trying to get organized in a virtual world.
Yeah.
My kids are in school in person, but I think everything's set up in case we have to go remote. And so it's just very different than, you know, paper and pencil and worksheets and just,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're in school full time, but they still have some virtual stuff they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a different ball game. How about someone else?
For us, it's definitely trying to work, parent, and teach at the same time. And like you feel like you're doing your job poorly or you're parenting poorly. You know, you can't like do either well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that feeling of just being overwhelmed and not in control. Maybe that desire to be so perfect or good at this, and there's no way to be. It's just,
right.
Yeah, it's hard to lower those expectations of yourself. Anything else?
I think a definite change in routine because of COVID and the way that different families have been monitoring how little or how much they're wanting to expose kids to one another.
Right.
So there's a lot of downtime and boredom, I think, and change your routine.
Yeah, nothing is the same socially.
Yeah.
Trying to find ways to keep that going.
Right.
Definitely.
And then you get in a real dull, boring routine.
Yes. Yes. It's hard to be at home.
Yeah.
All righty, next slide. So how do you withstand, bounce back, and grow? You get these groovy sneakers with springs on them. Right? So go ahead, next slide. So just want to review a little bit from the first 2 sessions. we talked about managing stress in the first one and broke it down into these 5 things: gratitude, finding gratitude and joy in daily life. Acceptance, and that's a really hard one, I think, is just focusing on what you can control and giving yourself a break, giving yourself permission to not always get it right. Then we talked about mindfulness and meditation, and the physical aspects of exercising, healthy eating. And then as you were saying, the staying connected part is essential. Finding ways to do this virtually, or writing letters, visiting through the door, that kind of thing. Okay, so next slide. Then the second session, we talked about building self-esteem and how important this is to your sense of well-being, to your ability to not feel as stressed, not feel as much like you're missing the mark, that it's okay. Whatever is going on right now with you, it's okay. Validate your feelings. Limit the news coming into the house. It can really provoke a lot of anxiety, particularly among kids, even teens.
Yeah.
Pictures they see, pictures are worth 1,000 words. Just limit the amount of news you bring in, keep it to a certain time where maybe kids aren't around, and talk to your kids, give your kids the news, because then you can kind of help them with their reactions and their questions. Another thing that helps with self-esteem, showing compassion and kindness, and this is contagious. It's been proven that when you show kindness, the person that has a kindness done then feels like they want to show a kindness. Also, just seeing somebody be kind can encourage kindness in others. Put your oxygen mask on first. You want to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else, before you can take care of your kids. And accept that it's okay to be a good enough parent. You don't need to be perfect. As a matter of fact, it's preferable to be a good enough parent. And we went into this a lot during the second session. Okay, next slide. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about resilience, getting yourself to a place where you can adapt, be flexible, learn from what life throws your way. It includes learning from past experiences, and this is kind of what I talked about it's not just a matter of getting through it. You're going to learn from it. You're going to develop new coping strategies to move forward. And then what we talked about earlier, stress reduction and positive self-esteem, it really goes hand in hand with resilience. You need to take care of yourself. You need to get that portion of yourself in order to help with resilience. All right, next slide. And then it's also important to look at the 8 dimensions of wellness. And I don't know if people are familiar with this, but we did do a promotion of this, and probably is still information on our website. It's a pretty standard model. I think it was it University of Michigan? I'm not sure. No, but and in any case, all of
Katie,
the.
I've got a link a little bit later, so I was going to share a little bit more about that once you go through it. So,
Excellent. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so all these different dimensions, emotional, social, occupational, and so forth, they're closely linked. They are interlapping with each other. To have a sense of wellness, we need to attend to each of these areas. So the next slide. Okay, so the first one, emotional wellness. This is something that a lot of people are really having difficulty with this time. You're wanting to try to manage your emotions, but there may be all these new emotions coming to the surface that you haven't really experienced before, or you're experiencing in such intensity that you don't know what to do. You're overwhelmed. You have to try to accept these feelings, not push them away. You need to try to experience them and then do something with them. And we're going to, next week, week 4, we're going to practice some actual stress management techniques. So it's going to be an interactive session. So, and then also in the first session, there's some techniques that you can look to. Okay, so if you want to go to the next slide. Spiritual wellness, the second dimension. You want to try to understand your beliefs, your values, your ethics, the things that help you find meaning and purpose. This is a time where that meaning and purpose is challenged. Is it our purpose to simply do everything virtually, to get our kids to get online and do their homework? Is it more the purpose of we'd like our kids to learn from this as well, for them to be able to adapt, set up routines for themselves? It's a really good learning time to examine how you're looking at this and how that relates to how you feel about things in general, what your values are in general. So you might seek out and experiment with activities such as volunteering, church, self-reflection, meditation, prayer, spending time in nature. All of those things can really also be stress reducers. The more interaction you have with others in whatever way you can during this time really helps with stress reduction. All right, next slide. Intellectual wellness. And this is the idea that you want to try and remain curious. You want to try and do new things to stimulate your brain, to just have a sense of doing something new, so you don't feel like you're trapped in nothingness of just the same old routine, like you were talking about, Lisa, of just everything gets boring. Try and find something to take care of that intellectual wellness. People find that they have better concentration, improved memory, better critical thinking skills. So try to engage in creative and mentally stimulating activities. You might start up an art project, learn a musical instrument. You might just read. And then you might share this knowledge with your kids, with others, as a way not only to help them learn things, but just modeling this idea that you need to take care of your intellectual wellness. Okay, number 4, physical wellness. And it's affected by your physical activity, healthy nutrition, adequate sleep, that kind of thing, preventive health visits. And this is all very easy to say, and we know this is all what affects your physical wellness, but it's challenging to do. And it's always challenging for some people, the idea of getting out and exercising, of getting yourself to bed at a reasonable hour. These days it's probably hard to sleep. So we need to try and find ways to really focus on it more at this juncture. I think that with physical exercise, it's a matter really of just allowing yourself to say, okay, it's okay if all I do is walk to the mailbox and walk back, but maybe when I get back inside, I could turn on some music and dance. Just adding a few things. And then a morning workout helps reduce stress later in the day, lowers blood pressure, improves sleep. So, just find ways, and it can just be goofy stuff. You can run up and down the stairs. There are a multitude of ways. Turn on an exercise video, or better yet, maybe a yoga video. There's so much stuff on YouTube. It's wonderful. All right, next slide. Environmental wellness. So your environment really can impact how you feel. And it could be the state of your room, the state of your house. It could be the state of your yard. It could be the state of your community. It all really makes an impact on our daily life, our daily feelings. At this point in time, it may be hard to motivate yourself to put things away, to clean. But if you can do it little by little, if you can attack getting your surroundings in order, it will be of great benefit. In terms of your environment, you can it feels good when you're recycling. It feels good when you're volunteering in your neighborhood to clean something up or to start something up. So you really just want to try and find ways to improve or keep your environment healthy for you. All right, next slide. Financial wellness. Oh, for a lot of people, this time is incredibly financially challenging. People are losing jobs, people's hours are getting cut back, people are asked to do more, people are asked to do things they don't know how to do. But money is essential to meeting our core needs, you know, health, shelter, food. So try to really sit down and understand your financial situation, figure out how to live on a budget, be an informed consumer so that money isn't flying out for purposes that it really shouldn't be flying out for. All right, number 7, occupational wellness. So this is where you're gaining a sense of satisfaction through the work you do. And a lot of the work we do is changing, but you need to try to find ways that it remains satisfying. There's a lot of balancing of work, leisure time that's going on right now. Routine is essential. Building relationships with coworkers, keep those going, even though a lot of people are virtual. Keep in touch. I find that with us in Vision Partnerships, the meetings that we have really recharge us, make you feel like you're connected still. Meetings used to be like, oh, another meeting. But now it's like, oh, time to see somebody and talk about what we're going through. So finding work that fits with your values, interests, and skills can help you maintain occupational wellness. But I think also keeping in touch with your work helps. All right, number 8, social wellness. So this is the big challenge we're facing right now, is how do we maintain social wellness in this crazy time? You want to continue to try and develop a sense of connection. Try to find ways to connect. Virtually, kids can connect through phone. The kids can do all kinds of things to connect that I don't even know how to do. But it's also kind of important that to some extent you're monitoring that, so they're not getting themselves in situations that are going to be harmful for them. Try to build and keep that support system going, whether it's family, friends. Reach out. It's easy to get complacent when you're at home working. It's easy just to feel like it's work, making dinner, going to bed, getting up again. It's important just to allow yourself the time to write a letter, to make a phone call, to say, let's play games through Zoom or a game app. Let yourself have that time. It's very important. And in doing that, let go of some of those needs to feel perfect in everything you do. Know that if you let yourself have this time for social activity, it's going to improve how you work in other areas of your life. So create, reevaluate, and increase supportive personal relationships. All right, Christina, next slide. Okay, so how is your wellness through the lens of the 8 dimensions?
And Katie, this is, if we go to, this is a link here. So I'm going to
Excellent.
show you all real quick. So I'm going to share another screen with you. This is on our website. There's a self-assessment. And just so you know, this self-assessment is one that we found. Can you all see this? Katie, can you see the wellness test? Okay, yes. Great. So this one we found, we looked all over the internet, and we really like this one because it hits all 8 dimensions, but it is geared towards an adult. So just as an FYI, We also created one that's more youth focused. That's also on our website. If any of you were interested, it could be maybe a family activity you do together, where you do the adult one, they do the youth focused one. But like I said, it's really good. And what's great about this is you get through the end of it. So you can see there's just questions that go with each dimension. And then once you get to the end, it actually gives you some suggestions for resources that are available for each one. So if you're particularly low and a couple of them, it'll say, hey, check out these various resources. So that's just, like I said, we like that. And then we did an event this year that used the 8 dimensions of wellness. It's called Healthy Hamilton, which we've had the last couple of years. I will say one benefit, or silver lining, I'll call it, from COVID and having to go virtual, is that we've now done 2 events. This one was at the sort of heat of things. It was early June, so it was completely virtual. The one we just did was for suicide prevention, and we had an in-life, in real life event, and then we also had a virtual version of it. But what's awesome about those virtual events is that they're recorded and people can go back and take a look at them. So if you're interested in what some of those activities were that were geared around the 8 dimensions of wellness and additional resources, that's still available too. So again, it's a little bit more to share based on this. But Katie, I know you had additional questions as well. So do you want me to go over to the presentation, or you want to stay here so we can chat for a minute?
Let's stay here and chat. So I'm wondering what kind of challenges, you talked about routines. I wonder if any other challenges have come up while you're listening to this, if you're thinking of other things that you've been kind of struggling with.
And maybe through, forgive me, you can take yourselves off mute. I was trying to reduce my own background noise, so I just muted all of us while Katie was talking. Anyways, feel free to take yourself off mute. I apologize for that.
I think on a fairly personal level, and I've had this discussion with lots of friends and family, it's difficult because our churches have been closed. Mm-hmm. And when they did open, it's still a vastly different kind of experience.
Right. Yeah.
So that's caused us to pretty much get out of a good routine.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa, think about that through the lens of the 8 dimensions, and how many dimensions does church hit?
Right.
Right.
Lots.
It's like 3 or 4.
No.
Yeah, like every financial class I've taken has been through a church. So it's even some dimensions you might not even think of as being like, oh yeah, that's one more connecting point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Oh, are you on mute?
Yeah, let me see if I can unmute you. Oh, I can't hear you, Jocelyn.
No.
I think you're on mute. But you're entertaining to watch. There you go.
I'm so bad with technology. It's terrible. Anyways, I have to go do lunch duty, but I'm definitely checking out your website and the 8 dimensions. I'm very curious to know more about that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
It was great to meet you, Jocelyn, and this will be recorded so to catch the end of it too. And then I hope you can join us for next week, because it is going to be interactive and we'll actually practice some of these things.
Yeah.
It's on my calendar. I think so.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Jessica, how about you? Thinking through the lens of the 8 dimensions, is there anything that came up for you?
I don't know. I thought it was interesting that there were a few things that I realized, like I have made changes and made those things better without really, realizing. So that part's good. Yeah, I think for me, it's been a lot of my challenge has been around family and not, and trying to decide when it's appropriate to see my family, when it's not appropriate to see my family. My mom has a lot of underlying issues, so it makes it, and not everybody, I have a lot of siblings, and not everybody feels the same way about the risk, right? We all have different levels of comfort with it. So some are like, everything's fine, just do what we did before. And some are like, I'm not coming out of my house. So we're very much of a range, and trying to like manage that interpersonal relationships, because those are the people I'm closest to, and try to still, be with them and not create any conflict amongst ourselves if we don't agree. That kind of thing has been a challenge.
And now it's getting cooler, so outdoor meetings are going to be more difficult,
Exactly.
sitting 6 feet apart outside. Yeah, so it's definitely a challenge. And I haven't done this, but I think, Christina, you've done this, the like family game night.
I was just going to say, yeah. So if any of you are game people, and I don't mean like high tech video games, but literally our family, our game is euchre, right? So I've got uncle cousins from Boston, more cousins all the way to Texas. And we've been able to get together a few times and play euchre together. And I will look it up, because I think I'll put it in the chat box what the link is called, but everybody logs in, and then you get to see like the cards move at the same time. So it's really fun. And euchre is our game, but they have a ton of other games on there too. And some are more like children's type games, and they might even have like poker or something, but they're more adult games too. But it's really, that has been something that was, again, one of those silver linings. We hardly ever get together otherwise, because we're so spread out. And then here we are, and we've got, cousins with new babies or children who are growing up, and you get to see them too, and they're running around, and it brings a different kind of interaction. And like you said, Jessica, it also helps navigate through, we have to be spread out because we're across the country, but it also helps navigate that interpersonal relationship of not everyone's approaching this in the same way. How do we still come together?
Yeah, that's great.
So I will look for that and put it in the chat real quick.
Thank you. All righty. Anything else that's coming to mind at this point? All right, well, we'll get back to the slides in a minute here.
Yeah, can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I found it, so I'm going to put it in our little chat, and then Katie, I will bring you back to where we need to be.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's called playingcards.io, which seems really like, why isn't it .com or something? But it's so much fun. Okay. Also, a little tip on that, not great to do on a phone, but if you do this, what we've done is used our computer for the card game because it's a big enough screen, and then we'll do a Zoom call as like on our phone, so we can be talking, and that way too, euchre is a maximum 4 people. So if we've got 5 or 6 people, you might have a couple people sitting out, but they can still watch and talk and participate that way. So like I said, we really enjoyed this one. So, all right, Katie, let me get you to your slideshow. Okay.
All right, so we talked a little bit about that. Okay, so when you're feeling out of balance, stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, see what changes you can make. And this is where we really have to get creative at this time. So, all right, next. So when you make the changes, you can accept the things you can't change this time. At this time, you have a greater sense of wellness and you are building resilience. So isolation and disruption to normal routines continues. You can expect shifting emotions, feelings of irritability, disconnection. There's signs of stress and anxiety. And there's no easy way through this crisis, but building your coping skills and resilience will help you work through all this emotional upheaval. And there isn't really one specific strategy to use to build resilience. It's just more of a process of establishing connections, coping with stress, adjusting your thought process, and fostering physical wellness. So looking at at all those areas that we talked about in the 8 dimensions of health, practicing stress techniques, reduction techniques. That's really what it's about. Nothing is, you don't want to practice stress techniques. We got enough of that going on. But, yeah. So I hope you can join us next week where we actually do some practice with that. Oh yeah, and Tigger knows life is not about how fast you run or how high you climb, but how well you bounce. So I'm wishing you good bouncing. And then if you would email me about topics you might like to see in this series, that would be wonderful. We do plan to keep this going, so. Okay, so what are some things that you learned today or stood out for you?
I've always heard, I guess, about the different components of wellness, but I'm not sure I ever thought of about it in the realm of occupational and financial and environmental.
Yeah,
I've always just heard about the 5.
right.
So it is kind of interesting in this time of life that we're in with the world, how there's been a lot of folks focusing on their environment and fixer-upper and all that. You
Yeah,
know, and how that motivates some people and can also cause stress.
right.
Because you feel like then you're not doing enough with this downtime. There's that whole piece that's come out of it. But I do think it's a great way to think about stressors and how you cope.
Yeah, and the thing is letting go and not expecting too much of yourself, and that really is okay. We're in a time where it is okay.
Yeah.
And in general, it's okay. You know, you have you know, the goals that you have that you want to reach, but it's okay to re-examine those. Yeah.
So the 8 dimensions of wellness actually come from SAMHSA. So it's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And we, as a prevention agency, you know, we focus on sort of 4 pillars of prevention. Substance abuse is one of them. Suicide prevention is another one, which fits into that mental health side. Gambling, or I should say problem gambling. And then also violence prevention. So that's sort of our perspective, or our lens that we're looking at all of these things through. So SAMHSA's definition or creation of the 8 dimensions of wellness, and why 8 dimensions, is that it really helps to reduce those risk factors that may bring someone into addiction or into a gambling addiction or suicidal ideation, things like that. So that's really where that comes from. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if you just did a search for dimensions of wellness, you're going to find the 4 dimensions of wellness. You know, in health classes, they're learning the 3 dimensions, like a triangle, and, you know, and none of them are wrong, but that's just so you have some context as to where those 8 come from.
Thank you. I love that.
Yeah. Jessica, how about you? I jumped right in. I apologize.
Right. I thought what I thought was interesting, or the thing that I took away from it, was if you look at the 8 dimensions, maybe you can look at that and see the ones that you're already doing okay in, you know, so you know where to focus. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's overwhelming. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this and doing this and doing this and doing
right.
this. Like, well, maybe I'm doing okay with this one, so maybe these are the ones that I'm not, and I'll focus my attention there rather than kind of
Exactly. It's a more positive, to celebrate what you are doing well.
Right.
And, you know, just like Lisa said, in that sense of what she's missing from church and the different dimensions, there's also you know, they're going to be sandwiched. So my passion is rowing, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. I have rowed, I've coached, you know, so currently I'm still coaching our adults, which are called Masters Rowers. And we, of course, have changed things around too. Well, we're still practicing 3 days a week using Zoom.
Mm.
And it's one more Zoom practice, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, I'm getting up, I'm getting myself out of bed because I got to show up for people. And then we're connecting. It's a solid group of about 7 of us that are connecting for, 45 minutes. We do a workout together, checking in, how are things going? So you end up hitting the physical, the social, emotional, you're hitting a lot of those in one go. So exactly to what you're saying, Jessica, that look at what you're doing well, but also as you're looking at them, what's something little that you could add into it? I walk my dog every morning, and I love listening to books on tape. So whether it's Hoopla or, whatever, for me, it's private time. You wouldn't want to do that if you're going on a walk with someone, right? Because you want to be talking to them. But that hits that intellectual wellness, the environmental. I live in a city where I'm keeping an eye on, not an eye, but I see what's going on. I can see new businesses that are opening. I can see, wow, there's increased trash in this area, and I can 311 it because I'm in Hamilton, so you sort of hit a couple of those different things. So I'm just giving a few examples of my own life because I know you all have plenty of your own examples, but just to know that in that idea that Katie's saying, give yourself a break, recognize what's going great right now, and then how do you just sort of layer them on a little bit? But not in that life way of, oh my gosh, all these things are moving around, but yeah. Game night with your kids, right?
Yeah. I think when you have multiple kids, I try to think about it from that perspective. And like you said, it can become very overwhelming. You're not going to be able to hit all aspects of wellness with all 4 kids. It's like yeah.
Yeah.
But which ones maybe need a focus to help them kind of see.
Exactly. And as with raising kids, always modeling, if they see you trying to figure this all out, that's very reassuring to them.
When do they start paying attention to that, Katie?
When they're 25. That's
what I've heard.
Their brain is developed, and then they're like, oh, I got a clue. Mom's not crazy.
Otherwise, what does that lady know? Yeah, what does that lady know about modeling? She's just a mom. She's off her rocker.
It'll happen.
Thank you for that. We're getting close with the oldest one, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, those last few years are rough, but
oh my gosh, you're not kidding. Good times.
Well, thank you so much. This was a real pleasure getting to know you. And Katie, I'm sorry if you had another closing. I just want to say thanks.
Basically going to say the same thing, that it's been very nice discussing things and sharing with each other. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.